All right, so you guys can see my screen. Are we good? Awesome. So, I don't know why I did that automatically, but okay, that's a problem.
Sorry, Laura. Hello, Laura.
Yes.
Who is the speaker, please? Are you the speaker as well? So I can note that down. Sorry.
So it is myself and Madison DeBerry and Apurva Iyengar. So I'll just introduce myself. I live in Long Beach, California. I am the World Ocean Day Youth Advisory Council Coordinator and a marine science educator. And I've worked with Madison for a few years and Apurva for a few months. So I'm gonna let them go ahead and introduce themselves now.
All right, so I am Madison DeBerry. I am living in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I have been involved in activism for a very long time, studying marine biology. I've known Laura here for a very long time. I had the pleasure of meeting Apurva a few months ago to work on this presentation. And I'm very excited to get to share our background knowledge in activism and give you guys some tools to become your own activist as well.
Yeah, so hi everyone, my name is Apurva Iyengar. So I'm a communications intern with the Big Blue and You right now, and that's how I met Madison and Laura. I'm also the founder of a youth-led organization called Youthify, which aims to be a unifying platform for the Gen Z environmental movement. It's really great to be here, and I'm super excited to get started with all of you.
All right, so why won't it let me now? There we go. All right, so Apurva, if you wanted to, or Mads, I'm not sure which one of you was doing this one.
It's me. All right, so we are going to break into some quick breakout rooms to get everyone warmed up. So we're going to be talking about what is an activist, what that means to you, what you picture when you think of an activist. So we'd like to hear your thoughts about that, and then we'll reconvene and kind of discuss what everyone thinks an activist is, how they should act, what actions do they take, and if you would consider yourself an activist. So we are going to break out into some breakout rooms. I think, Laura, you're going to handle that.
So we have 15, so I'll do three breakout rooms. Okay, so we'll give you guys a few minutes to talk about these questions and we'll reconvene in a minute. Is it working?
I think so. I think Mads got pulled into one of them.
Okay. It says everybody is assigned. Oh. Bill keeps messaging me. I'm like, dude, I can't do anything.
There's a few people who have not joined.
It says, oh, okay. It's weird. I don't know how Madison got pulled.
So the thing is, when you do it, you have to so you click like breakout rooms, and then when you say create, you have to then like unassign the hosts from the rooms. So it's a little bit of like a guessing game. There's a couple of people. There's this one person who just won't join any of the rooms. Oh my goodness, this is kind of a mess.
We're doing well. It's okay. Okay.
I think people are having some connection issues.
I think I put them in at 08, 07, 08. So we'll give them a few more minutes.
Everyone went to their rooms. Oh my goodness. Why is that like such a mess?
Oh my god, Lucas is here. God.
Who?
He's let's see. Hi Lucas. Hello.
I don't know if I can hear you yet.
Lucas is a mutual friend of mine and Madison. He's quite the character.
Gotcha.
We have a decent amount though. It's nice.
It's nice. I think we maybe should have waited a bit before putting people in the breakout rooms, I think. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like just from the like engagement perspective, it's nice, but like logistically, people are still joining like 15 minutes into the call. So
We can remember that for tomorrow. Okay.
But yeah, I like really didn't know how like breakout rooms worked before I started like actually like having to do them because it seems very different on the participant end.
Yeah, this is the first time I've done it as a host, which is good because I have to do this for Youthathon a bunch. So
Are you guys not doing it as like a live stream anymore? Is it like
oh, it's still gonna be live and it's
Okay.
gonna be interesting for sure.
fun?
Okay, so I'm gonna close the rooms because I think we've given them enough time. So
Yeah, if you want, I can make them next time because it can be very chaotic.
if you know what you're doing, yeah, I'll let you.
I know what I'm doing. I still like stress about it though.
Fake it till you make it. It's okay.
I'm putting that on my resume. Zoom. It's kind of funny though. This is being recorded.
Oh, Jesus. It's fine. We don't have to watch this part. We'll just skip it. It's okay.
Someone at the IUCN conference watching this.
Yep, it's okay. Okay, we got 10 seconds. Drink my coffee. Oh, jeez. All right, welcome back, everyone. Hope we all had some good discussions about what it means to be an activist and all that good stuff. I'll go back to sharing my screen. Did anybody have a really good idea as to what an activist means to them? Does anybody want to speak about the things that they talked about during your breakout room?
Feel free to put your answers into the chat as well.
Yes. Hello.
Hi.
Yeah,
Are you there?
Mhm.
What's happening?
You can go ahead.
We can hear you. Yep.
Oh yes, activism. Activist itself is an individual who undertake the cause of fighting for the right cause or defending people's rights, be it through speaking or through demonstration in pursuit of the freedom of assembly, in pursuit of freedom of speech, in pursuit of freedom of protest act. So these are all factors that constitute activism. They can be defending human rights or climate. But I still wanted to speak before the time was short. But one thing I noted in my course of activism is every average activist should understand the law of their country so that the politician will not take advantage of them. I don't know if you understand. So the laws also change the act of parliament. So they can change it to affect what you are fighting for. And once you forget to read about the new legislation, you then become victim in hand of police. Does that make sense? So
Yes, that's actually, it's great that you mentioned that, because we'll actually be touching upon that later on and telling people to make sure that you know what you can do as an activist, depending on your situation and where you live. So thank you for that. I think we had someone else that raised their hand that wanted to share as well.
I believe it was Sarah raised her hand. You're welcome to unmute yourself if you'd like.
Yeah, thank you. So our group, in our group, we said that activism was about, so we really used action verbs. So we said that activism was about taking action, but it could also be taking small actions, and it was not only being on the front, as we said. Yeah. So that's it. And inspiring was a big word we use.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm.
Awesome. And you guys in the chat also had some really excellent answers as well. Definitely. But we will head to the next slide.
So what exactly is the anatomy of an activist? I'm sure this is a question that you all have because our title for our presentation is definitely a little bit out there. So we define the anatomy of an activist as being the three main parts to activism as a whole. So the heart, the hands, and the feet. The heart is really individual activism. So it's things that you do on a personal level, whether that be lifestyle changes, talking to your family and friends, or simply making a difference in one other person's life. Those are all individual actions that you can take as an activist. And then we have the hands, which are community actions. So they're, actions with people that you can hug, you can touch and feel that are close to you and you can join forces with. And, they come from things like leading community events, running education workshops in your area, and just finding ways to engage the people around you around the issues that you're passionate about. And finally, we have global action through our feet. So obviously our feet are what carry us places. They enable us to travel long distances and connect with people who live far away from us. So global action is really, how can you find a community that is broader than your locality, broader than the area that you live in, and instead, connect with people that are from different areas of the world, as well as bring those global issues that affect us all in different ways. How can you bring them down to a local level and an individual level and make them feel that like they're conquerable for you and for your community on that smaller scale? So how can you affect change in a small way that impacts these big problems? So next we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about individual action. Can I get the next slide, Laura? So individual activism is, again, like we said, it's based on that concept of the heart. So it's your, personal activism. So it can be as simple as really leading by example and working to live more sustainably, because obviously those are things that you do for yourself. So how can you become more sustainable on a personal level? One of the best things that I like to do is use the measure, understand, analyze, and change process. So this is a way of taking stock of exactly what you do on a daily basis and figuring out how you can live your life in a way that's more eco-friendly and sustainable for the planet. So the first step is always measuring what your impact is. So, whether it's plastic waste or, looking at the carbon footprint of red meat, for example, how much do you actually consume or affect the planet on a regular basis? And you can use things like a plastic footprint calculator or a carbon footprint calculator to figure out exactly what you're doing and what impact you're causing. The next step is to understand. So what exactly is causing you to have this impact, right? Is it because you have to buy lunch at school every day? Is it because you need to take a bus or a car to get to work? What are the things in your life that are causing you to have this impact on the planet? Because obviously none of us want to do these things. We have to as a result of the society that we live in. So understanding is really about figuring out where those things come from. And finally, you're going to analyze what impact you're having. So looking at ways that you can actually improve that. So maybe if you're able to take some kind of public transport to work instead of taking a car, if you're able to walk more or bike more, or look for a store that allows you to buy items in bulk without a lot of plastic packaging. So stores where you can bring your own bags, things like that. What changes are you able to make in your life that will really enable you to live more sustainably? And the key to this is making a change that's sustainable for the planet, but it's also sustainable for you. If you're someone who has grown up eating red meat and, lots of these other very carbon intensive foods, it's going to be very difficult for you to kind of change and stop eating those things, especially because that's what your family eats. That might be where your, ethnic background, that's where your culture's food is from, and that's what kind of food that you've been used to eating your entire life. So it's going to be very difficult for you to switch to a plant-based diet. So that's not maybe the most sustainable choice for you as an individual, but maybe instead you can look for places to buy your meats that don't use a lot of plastic packaging. Maybe there's a way that you can get, more fresh cuts from a place that uses paper or some other kind of compostable packaging instead. And finally, the final step in the process is to change. So see how you can actually implement those changes on a day-to-day basis. And again, remember that no one is perfect, and this problem is a systemic problem. The climate crisis and all these other environmental issues can't really be solved by one person, but whatever you can do to make an impact is something that you're doing to make yourself more aware of what's going on, as well as feel connected to the issues and feel like you're personally making a difference. And that's super important in just maintaining your morale and keeping you going motivation wise, and making sure that you're able to continue doing the very important work that you do. So the other part of kind of individual activism comes from relationships in activism. So how can you as an individual affect change in the people around you? This really comes from finding your community and support as an activist, which Laura is going to talk about in a little bit more detail. But the one thing that I will say is that As an activist, the only thing that you need to do to qualify as an activist is to affect change in one other person in your life, whether that is yourself, your family members, your friends. It could even be, you know, somebody that you just meet on the street someday and you're talking to them about environmental issues. Even if you're only able to convince yourself and to educate yourself better about one issue, that still counts as activism, and that still has a lot of impact, because by being better educated, you're able to continue kind of helping other people learn about these issues as well. So remember that no matter the scale of your activism, it's all very significant and it all counts and matters. You know, you don't have to be a Greta of the world in order to make an impact. You can do it just by talking to your family and friends about environmental issues. So I'm going to hand it over to Laura now to kind of discuss how you take your impact from an individual level and expand it to your community.
Yeah, so Apurva had excellent points all throughout. Sorry. And community action is the next step after you take your individual action. So what is a community even? You know, it's all about identifying your niche. Like Apurva said, this doesn't necessarily have to be your whole life. Activism really just, you know, it can be embedded in everything that you do in your entire life. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have a degree in marine biology or climate science or environmental science or anything like that. You can learn about the issues, like Apurva said, and have that impact on yourself from the education aspect of things. But then when you go to identify what communities you're a part of, that's when you can really start to look at all of the different ways that you can give that message to those communities. So what a community is could be a church, any religious group that you're a part of. It could be, you know, a book club that you're a part of. It's your friend group, it's your coworkers, it's your neighbors in the area that you live in. Community is anybody who you surround yourself with and anybody who you talk to on a regular basis. So identifying what areas and what communities you're a part of can really help, you know, impact, you know, I'm sorry, I'm losing my train of thought as I'm sitting here speaking, but it's okay. And what role do you play in these communities? How does your community benefit from your presence? And we can say, like, for example, if you are a dancer, if you are a ballerina, right? It's kind of a funny example, but if you're talking in these, you know, areas of life that don't necessarily have anything directly to do with an environmental message, what you can do through community action is bring these messages into those communities that might not be talking about it otherwise. So the second point here is creating an ecosystem of positive influence. You can create a massive network and change makers if even just 10% of the people you reach with your message echo those lessons to others in their own communities. So like Apurva said, activism is basically just impacting change on one person, and that person could be yourself. But if you happen to have a conversation with somebody in your community that really sticks with them, and you are able to teach them something that they might not have known before, what might happen is they might start to then go and teach those messages to people in their communities. And it's this kind of domino effect where you have a message starting with one person, spreading to 2 people, to 4 people, to 8 people, and you just grow this entire message as big as you possibly can. And it only takes a couple of people within each of your communities to be able to do that. So the network, that ecosystem is something that you can definitely lean on as well. And we'll talk about solutions a little bit more in our second session, which is tomorrow. But in terms of moving from individual action to community action, it's that network that you can really start to utilize if you want to, really have the global impact. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide, and Madison is going to talk more about our global impact.
All right, so yes, coming from the community actions, getting everyone in your area involved, growing that community, then comes the global action. So what happens in your community does have an effect on our larger ecosystems, which then can affect our global ecosystems and our global economy, which is really huge. So we can talk about what are some environmental issues that are occurring worldwide that need our attention. So I think we can all agree plastic pollution, our general carbon footprint. There are so many different environmental aspects that need our attention that may not be happening in your community. But how are you going to take those global issues that may not be even aware to those around you, and how do you bring them into your community and start advocating for global change elsewhere? So we'll be discussing more action-based things, like Laura said, tomorrow, but definitely be paying attention to what policies are around in your country or are going around globally, whether it's the UN. So there are some great policies like marine protected areas that we can kind of advocate for. And I think it's really important, localizing those global issues, because like I mentioned, people in your community may not know what's going on the other side of the world. And just because you don't know that they're going on, it does not mean they're any less important. And everything has an effect on something else. So what's going on in another country may not register as affecting you directly, but it does definitely have an impact on, a much broader scale. So, localizing those global issues, educating yourself and educating your community, those people that you've already gotten involved in the conservation message. And one of the best ways to do that, is using your voice. So let's see. Sorry, guys, I got distracted by our chat going on. But yeah, so our global impact, I like the idea of using your feet because you can really take that message elsewhere. So I believe our next slide is our discussion questions. Yes. All right. So I think Laura, you were leading these, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so we're going to do a couple more breakout rooms because a lot of the ideas that come from the activism space are brought about by having these conversations with other people who are interested in taking action, right? That goes back to the community. So the first question that we're going to ask, we're going to send you guys out into breakout rooms again. Apurva is going to handle that this time because I messed it up a little bit last time, but it's okay. The first question we're going to have you guys talk about for about 5 or 6 minutes is, who are role models or peers in your community that you personally can make connections with? So think about that a little bit. We're going to go into breakout rooms and we'll be back in a few minutes.
You should all be receiving a message to join a breakout room. Feel free to click it when you're ready.
I think we just have 2 people not joined to a breakout room, if I'm seeing that right, or no?
We've got a couple of people still hanging out here. Please go ahead and click the message on your screen that should come up, inviting you to join a breakout room.
just admitted someone. Do we have to assign them to a breakout room? Or does it do that? So who we got still hanging out here?
For the next one, I'm going to remember to actually put the question in the chat as well. I'm going to do that right now, actually, because, you know.
We have one. Oh, no. Okay, so we would just have 2 more people waiting on.
It's crazy we still have more people coming in. I'm really happy with the turnout, though.
Yeah, we got a lot of people.
Can I get some help? I ended up leaving my breakout room immediately after I joined. I don't know what happened, but can I get some assistance?
Yeah, let me see if I can move you. Okay, you should be receiving an invite to join a breakout room now. Just click join and you should be able to get in.
What time did we put them in the breakout room?
I want to say only like 2 minutes ago.
30, yeah, like 2 or 3 minutes ago. Okay, I have no sense of time whatsoever. I'm gonna be right back. My contact is like
If you just got here, please go ahead and join your breakout room once you get a prompt on your screen. How are y'all doing? I think we can make it through the next hour and a bit of this.
Yeah, I mean, if we have if we give them enough time to like discuss when they come back from the breakout room, I think it'll be fine. I knew I wasn't gonna have 10 minutes of things to say on my slide, and I ended up only speaking for like 3 minutes.
Yeah, same. It's like
Porvit, stop. You were so eloquent and like so like you had so many good things to say.
My mind just went blank for a hot second. I was like,
Oh, I was like, I can't read. I don't know what's happening. My brain just like, oh God.
Dude,
Okay.
it sounded great, don't worry.
1 more minute.
I literally had like 3 times in there where I was like, I don't know what I'm saying. There are words coming out, but they don't have any meaning.
You were so good though. It's okay. It's okay.
I feel like we can let them stay in the rooms for a bit more. Like I feel like a lot of people just got there because they came like late and they were having trouble like joining.
Are they answering all 3? Or are they?
That's the first one.
Okay.
Here's the first one.
My God, we have to do this again. Such a pain getting everyone into breakout
that's how we take up time. And I think when we do with the breakout rooms, when it goes randomly, they talk to different people every time too.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that's nice. Okay, I'm gonna hit the close room for 1 more minute. Yeah, so I'm going to ask again if any of them have anything that they discussed that they liked, and then we can say our parts if you guys want to add anything to that at the end, and then I'll go back and then ask the next one.
Yeah. So I think everyone's joining us now.
Yep, welcome back everyone.
Excellent. I hope you all had good conversations. A few more seconds. All right, so that number's starting to tick back up. We're starting to get everybody back. Excellent, awesome. So yeah, so we just discussed our first discussion question. If anybody wants to share, you can go ahead and put that in the chat. And if anybody wants to come off of mute, you can go ahead and use the raise hand feature, and we'll call on you and you can share if you feel like you had a really good discussion. Go ahead, Victor.
Yes, hi. Yes, we came to a resolution about getting support from UN or global actors, because we cannot rely on local authority for our safety or collaboration, because oftentimes we give reference, one of the members of the chat gave reference of Mexico, how corrupt it is with politicians who are the oppressors. They are not gonna protect you because what you are fighting for is against their own interests. It could be economic interests, it could be revenue interests. Let's say they have a bad policy for tourism that violate people's rights, but they are making millions from the revenue for that sort of tourism. So you are seeking for protection from the same man that you said you don't want him to continue polluting the environment, polluting the seafront. He is not gonna protect you. He will want to take you out. So, but one of the members of the chat also talk about collaboration, like network of global activists, like a union. I think is very feasible and plausible to think that way, so that when one of the activists is arrested, we can all seek collective help from that network and release them out. Are you there?
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you so much, Victor. Definitely. And again, tomorrow in our second session, we're going to be talking a little bit more specifically about action-based items. But yes, definitely. All of what you said is absolutely accurate. Sometimes it is a little bit more tricky when we get to the global activist side of things. But did anybody have anything else they wanted to share in terms of individual action?
Some great answers in the chat as well from Andrea and Courtney.
Yeah, so I'll just go over what they said in the chat unless anyone would like to join in. But Courtney mentioned that artists are a great way to spread awareness because there are so many different mediums that you can use. And I think that's a great way to involve your community as well, is through art, because it's kind of a universal language that you can reach, you know, anyone, anywhere, no matter their age, their language. That's a really great way to spread your message within your community. So yeah, definitely love that answer. I'm going.
Yeah. So now moving from individual action, talking a little bit about community, now we're going to go to our community action discussion question. So what are your strengths or talents that you can harness to contribute to good? Do you personally focus more on art or science or communication or storytelling? So this goes back to what I was talking about before, is finding your niche. What communities do you exist in that you can bring this message of conservation to? So I want you guys to really talk about specifics that relate to you and your communities specifically, and then see if anybody else in your breakout room has any ideas for you as well. So that's going to be our second question. I'm going to type that in the chat. And we're going to go back into our breakout rooms, and let us know if you guys need more time or we're giving you too much time for the breakout rooms as well. We want to hear some feedback from you guys as well. But I'm going to go ahead and let Apurva put you guys back in those breakout rooms.
Okay, you shall be receiving an invite momentarily. Hey, Jeremy, are you having trouble joining your room? Oh, I guess not.
I got everyone in them this time.
No, I set it up so that they would just be like shoved into that. Because I was like, they can't have the option to join the main room.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was set up that way. But
That guy, I think I texted you. I don't know if I want to. I still feel like someone can hear me.
Nobody can. So
I felt that our first breakout room, Victor, he did not talk about the question at all. And I was just trying to stop him. And then I got a message like 2 minutes left. And I was like, but thankfully only one more person wanted to share. So like they got to share. Here's Lucas. Okay, we have to assign to, we'll do room 2.
Yep.
I'm on mute this whole time, like Jesus. Okay. I simultaneously need more and less coffee in my system.
Relatable. Yeah, it's making me jittery, but at the same time.
I hope they're actually like having good discussion.
I hope so.
I mean, everybody in the chat thinks they are, but
I don't want like you asked. I want to ask, are like these breakout rooms effective? Like, are you guys really talking about stuff? Do you hate them?
like, please give us some feedback.
Yeah, I think we'll ask them again to like write in the chat if like these are effective and if they like them.
We should just give them a few minutes where we're like talking about something else, but they can like put the in the chat.
How many total do we have right now? 3, 4. Okay.
I'm assign. Okay, yeah. I'm trying to stay on top of it so no one's just like lingering.
Yeah.
Lucas and Victor are in a room together. That should be interesting.
Feel bad. My friend Jess keeps joining because she like wants to see it. She's also at work, so I feel bad that we keep going to break. She keeps leaving and coming back. Every time she joins, we're like about to go into another breakout room.
Oh, she can't like talk. She's just like listening in.
Yeah, she like keeps tuning in and then popping out. But I feel like every time she tunes in, we're like, okay, so next, and then she like tunes out again. But at least she's here.
I can like leave her out of the breakout rooms if you want. I didn't realize she was like.
No, I think she keeps coming in and out because she's at work too. So like,
it's moral support. It's okay.
Moral support, yeah, that's what she's here for. She's so cute. She texted me. She's like, "How do I join?" I'm like, you really don't have to because it's gonna be like hella interactive.
It's okay. Friends are always nice to have. I'm like so sleepy right now. Like, I would take a nap if I could.
Dude, my brain stopped working when I was trying to talk about global things.
It's hard because like talking about it without the action piece is definitely difficult. So I feel like
I like started to go. I'm like, yeah, tomorrow's gonna be easier because there's so much you can talk about. And this is kind of like giving a general overview.
Right. Like you can briefly go, like I talked about actions, you know, like just ways that people can take stock of like what their impacts are and stuff like that. So like you can mention a few. I just wouldn't go into like a whole ton of depth because then we won't have much to talk about tomorrow. But you can also like repeat yourself tomorrow. Like who cares? It's not like hearing it twice is gonna like ruin anyone's. This is only going to the 3 of us, by the way, Laura.
Okay.
No, I think
like, yeah, I know how to use Zoom. I've been on Zoom the entire pandemic. I guess.
No, I think you can, because I could still see what was going on in the chat when I was in that breakout room. I'm pretty sure.
Oh,
I thought we were all going into breakout rooms. Like I was trying to like navigate. I guess it's a good thing I did because I kind of like stopped Victor.
Why are my eyeballs? Why? This is the worst time to be just like crying for no reason.
You know what? I'm glad we have this time together. How long have they been in there?
About 5 minutes. So okay.
We'll go a little more.
Where did Lucas go? Oh, he disappeared.
He had something at 3, so he probably did.
Ah.
He texted me. He was like, "I'll be able to catch a little bit of it." Okay. It's all good.
I might actually just take a little nap.
Just close my eyes for a second.
This is like weirdly peaceful. Is this what teachers feel like when all their students like go on lunch?
Yes, literally yes. Okay, I'm gonna start to let them back in.
And then we're doing
The third one.
yoke. I will do the rooms once everyone's back.
I think we should definitely ask though, it's like, are these effective? Are you guys actually speaking in that?
I hope they are.
I feel like they are. I
Yeah,
hope they are.
We'll see.
The fact that they have 15 seconds left and nobody has actually come back yet tells me that they are talking about it.
okay.
All right, people starting to come back in. Awesome. Please let us know, guys, in the chat if these breakout rooms are beneficial. We would love to hear some feedback from you. If you want more time, less time, if you're actually talking about it or not, whatever. But yeah, so I really love this question. I definitely hope you guys were able to learn a little bit more about each other in these conversations. Did anybody have anything interesting that they talked about that they would like to share?
Hello. Hello.
Hi, we can hear you.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it looks like it's yeah. On our breakout, we touched base on number of things affecting activism and our strength and weaknesses in activism. You do know that some activists have this expertise or this natural ability to convey message effectively, communications, while some may perhaps find the problem and some solve it. So one of our members in the group, she's more of a scientist, and she talks about how science have this kind of, is perceived or have the kind of reputation that people think is a boring profession. Does that make sense? So people like them, they don't really listen much like how people listen to musicians. A lot of musicians do very well in activism because they have a lot of followers who enjoy the excitement of the music culture as well as the dancing. So they take advantage of that to convey their message. So, but I was talking about science should not be left out because people like her, they are great people in our society. They identify problem and they also solve it. She's from Mexico. I gave a strong analogy of how this tend to happen. For example, the case of oil spill on Mexico Sea. I don't know if you remember, there was oil spill that worth billions of compensations to the local people. So it was science that enabled the cleanup of that oil spill. Without scientists, no one could have thought of the right chemical process to use to clean up the environment. Without science, you couldn't identify the negative effect of what damage maybe gas flaring cause, oil spill cause. So science are crucial in activists. All they need to do is to make it a bit more exciting, so it's less boring to young people. Does that make sense? So
Yeah, definitely, I agree with everything that you said, and I think that's another important thing that we're definitely going to talk about tomorrow as well, is uplifting those other voices. Like you said, musicians have a really big influence, but not a lot of people are listening to scientists. They don't have that big of a platform. So I think that's really important. Definitely, sharing those stories as well. We did get a lot of great feedback in the chat as well. We were talking about social media, which is also a great tool that we will be definitely diving deeper into tomorrow as well. Like we mentioned, our session tomorrow is more action-based. So
Courtney mentioned something about just general science communication, bringing up the example of bird watching and connecting people to nature. I love that idea as well. So it seems like you guys are definitely having some really awesome conversations in our breakout rooms, which is awesome because we have one more breakout room that we're going to put you guys into. And that is more of our global action. Sarah, our session starts at the same time tomorrow. Same time we started today, just tomorrow. But our third question for our third breakout room is, what are some tools you can use your social media as a tool to localize global issues? And how can you make sure that the information you are sharing is factual? Everybody has brought up social media, and that's really awesome. And like Apoorva said in the chat, the key to spreading awareness is turning that awareness into action. So I want you guys to meditate on that a little bit, and we'll give you a little bit less time for this one just because you guys have already been talking about social media. But yeah, go ahead.
Okay, you guys should all be
Hello.
receiving. Yes, Victor?
Yeah, so before we go, on our last section, we communicate about exchanging social media. So I have left my Instagram handle here on the group chat. So those who we become good at communication, as you can see, I like talking. So sorry. I also run a youth organization. So most of my life I talk to young people. So I'm used to this. Sorry.
Excellent. We actually have all of our social media handles at the very end of our presentation. So at the end, if you guys would like to put your Instagram handle in the chat, we can definitely do that. But for right now, we're going to go into our breakout room.
Yep, and feel free to share contact information if you'd like to stay in touch with anyone. Obviously, don't feel pressured to. So you should be receiving an invite shortly to join a breakout room.
I see you left Jess unassigned. Oh no, she got put in.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Oh, I think she. No. Let's give it. See if everyone's able to join.
I'm so hungry.
Me too.
Jeremy, are you still having trouble joining your breakout room?
Is this the last breakout room or do we have one more?
I
I
think this
believe this is the last one. It definitely seems like they're having conversations, so that's cool.
Yeah, which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe let's do like 5 minutes from now because I think a few people just got in, so. What else do we have left for today?
Literally just that.
may end up ending early. I guess we can always kind of come back and let people discuss.
Is there anything that you guys want to touch on before we go to the next slide?
I think maybe just letting people like ask if they want to come off mute and just kind of like discuss, or if they have any questions for us, we can like open it up, because I think we forgot to do that earlier.
Yeah.
They've been pretty active in the chat though, so I'm sure if they had anything major, they would have asked.
Yeah, I really like some of the stuff they've been saying in the chat too. It's like they're actually having like good conversations.
Yeah. I kind of want to like save the chat because there's some like good content in there.
Bring it for tomorrow. Take notes.
Sometimes people just like come to these like meetings like so ready to just like get involved and like learn.
Yeah, I loved how that girl, she was like, it's 11:30 here. Like I've been so excited for your session. I'm like, oh my God, thank you.
I'm gonna actually do that while we're waiting for the breakout rooms to end. I'm gonna like write down some of the things mentioned in the chat just so we actually can bring it up tomorrow.
There's a way to save the chat if you're like the host or co-host as well, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know how.
I think.
Yeah, there's, so if you go into the three little dots there, you can say save chat. Yeah, at the end of the call. I
think someone else should too, because I'm not very tech savvy and I don't know how to get it back. So if you all want to save the chat,
I can bring it to you guys. It's just, it becomes this gross like text file basically.
I'm texting my friend. I'm like, I feel bad that every time you join, literally he joined again right before we went into this breakout room. And I was like, every time you join, we go into breakout room. She's like, I know. She was like, I at a client's house, like I can't.
Hello.
Hello.
It's going.
Hi.
All right, we want to give them one more minute.
Yeah, how long is it been? How much more of the presentation do we have?
Literally just like those two slides at the end, like get involved and
Maybe we can give them a little longer because we still have an hour.
I know, that's why I'm like, we should, I don't know. It's okay.
I think we'll just open it up for questions and let people like discuss.
Yeah.
They've been like really active, so I'm sure they'll have things to say.
When we open it back up, what's his name, Victor, I feel like we should say Victor has a lot of things beneficial to say, but we want to make sure other people have the chance to talk too. It's so sweet. He's like so excited. He's like, I put my Instagram handle in the chat, which I did not see. I don't think he actually did.
He did it in breakout room chat, which is like there's like separate chats basically.
But I definitely want to make sure like other people get the chance to talk too.
Yeah.
Okay, do you guys want to close the rooms now?
Yeah.
Wait a few minutes. think it's going well.
Yeah, me
So,
too.
I mean, people have stayed, so.
That's something, you know. It is a 2-hour session. It's very long.
This stool is not very comfortable, my app. To sleep.
It's okay. Yay. All right, we're getting people back again. That was our final breakout room. We are so excited to discuss all of this stuff with you. And social media is definitely an interesting tool, especially now, particularly in America currently, but in other places around the world too. Misinformation is definitely very prevalent. So we wanted to ask you guys if you had any good conversations about how you can make sure the information that you are sharing on social media is factual. So did anybody want to share that? And Victor, we so appreciate you raising your hand. You have so much excellent things to talk about, but we want to make sure we give as many people the chance to talk as possible. So if there's anybody else who wants to share, you guys can go ahead. We'll be monitoring the chat as well.
Okay, I guess I'm just commenting then. Sorry. Okay, now it should work. I was in the same group as Victor, so I'm sure he can correct me if I say something wrong or anything. But just very briefly to your question, I have so personally, I'm not influenced. I'm just using my social media accounts privately. But even if I share something, I will make sure the information is correct by looking at papers or just trying to find the original source. But for me, it might be easier because I have a scientific background. So that's kind of what I do in daily life, right? So you always reference everything and make sure. But if I look at my friends that don't have this background, they literally believe everything and just share everything. And it sometimes makes me terribly mad, especially now with the pandemic, what sort of information I see on my timeline. I cannot believe it. And I think for them, it's really difficult to understand which information is right and how to verify this information, because they didn't have the same education as me. So I think those things unfortunately go hand in hand. It's not like, I think we are also probably the first generation that is involved with the social media and with all this spread of information, unfiltered information. So I think it's not so easy for all of us to question the information that's out there and understand where it's coming from.
Yeah, I definitely agree that, with the growth of social media and so many people sharing so many things, it becomes really hard to distinguish between what is fact and what is fiction. And if you don't have, that skill set of already, knowing how to research and fact check yourself, it can be really difficult. So yeah, thank you for that. I definitely agree. I'm sure we can all agree on that one. And, seeing a lot of misinformation recently is very frustrating, like you said. So it's really important to make sure that what you're sharing is definitely factual. And like you said, just doing a quick Google search to that, information that you saw, and make sure you're referencing reputable sources. Make sure that what you're, fact checking yourself on is a, reputable source. And I said that already, but
and I think also just making sure you're using those critical thinking skills and making sure you're asking all of the right questions, both to yourself and to others. Who is the one telling this story? Why are they telling this story? Do they have anything to gain from telling this piece of information, the way that they're telling it, and just making sure you're using those critical thinking skills. So Victor, if you do want to speak, you can go ahead. And then anybody else, after we're done with this discussion, we're going to open it up to questions as well. So if anybody has any questions for the three of us, after we're done with this discussion, you can go ahead and unmute yourself or put it in the chat. But Victor, if you want to go ahead, you can.
Yes, thank you very much. Sorry. Yeah, coming from my experience on activism as well with social media, I think we should also work hard on network to verify account. I understand that referencing the source of your information is imperative for professionalism using social media. However, if you observe, accounts that are verified on social media don't get suspended when you are doing activism, because activism, whether you like it or not, is it has this sensitive information, and we're living in a kind of snowflake, kind of, whether you like it or not, generation where social media companies will say that news is very sensitive. They will suspend the account. Twitter does that a lot. Twitter does it on unverified account. So if we can, because we have to appreciate social media in the eyes of activism, because mainstream media never helped the cause as well, because they were being funded by corporations. So they can't, it's like their interest is being bought to fight for what we are talking about in the 10 years ago. If you call BBC to cover gas flaring or oil spill in Mexico, they will not come, because those companies that violate that rule, BP, they are the ones who donate the highest check to them. That's how their mind work. So at least, sorry, let me leave you to carry on.
Yes, thank you, Victor, so much. You definitely make a good point. We have to remember that all of these social media companies are private companies, and the algorithm can definitely be tricky when you're talking about certain aspects of parts of the world that you want to change, especially when we start to talk about war and violence and so on and so forth, things that don't necessarily have to directly do with the environment, but things that definitely impact the environment. So that's definitely something to take into account. But yes, that was a lovely discussion. We so appreciate you guys participating. And now we wanted to open this up to questions and discussion here in the main room. We're not going to go into an actual breakout room now, but we want to hear your thoughts. If there is anything that you wanted to mention at any point throughout any of the things that we've already talked about, either individual action and impact, community, or global action and impact. If there's anything that you would like to say, please feel free to join the discussion if anybody wants to come off of mute.
Feel free to ask if you have any questions personally for us, either about our experiences in the past or what we've learned along the way.
I'm going through the chat myself to see if anyone mentioned anything that we should definitely share. But like Apurva said, all three of us, and I've noticed that a lot of you guys as well, you have all been involved in activism. I know for three of us, it's been years and years of experience. So if you had any questions for us as to what we've learned, or if anyone else wants to share their own experience involved in activism and give some pointers to people who are just getting involved, you can definitely do that.
I see
we had a question. Go ahead, Apurva.
Now, I was just saying there are a couple of questions in the chat. So Andrea asks, can you tell us more about your experiences? And Innocent had a question about if we have a social media program for youth activists in Africa. So to the second question, no, not at the moment, but there's lots of great resources to be found online. If you check out canva.com, they have a graphic design website, as well as lots of tips and tricks about social media and how to design social media posts, how to write content for social media posts, all of that kind of stuff. They're a great resource for that as well. More about our experiences. Mine specifically have been very focused in ocean conservation, specifically kind of in the youth space, taking part in, programs like Sea Youth Rise Up, which is actually an internationally open program that I think will have applications hopefully this year or next year, depending on the pandemic as well. Laura's also been a part of that program. I've also been a part of Ocean Heroes Bootcamp in the past, as well as the Youth Leadership Council of Earth Echo International. I can provide links for all those things if you guys are interested in checking them out. But my activism right now mainly focuses on creating a place for youth activists to come together. So that's really what Youthify is, and we'll kind of be sharing more about how you can get involved with all of the different organizations that we're involved with right now. But like I said, Youthify is a place where young people can meet, collaborate, and connect on various environmental issues, as well as come together for greater global mobilizations, and really provide that place for a lot of isolated and disparate youth-led environmental groups to have some kind of connection point and some way to work together in a lot of places where, they might be separated by regions, by, what they're focusing on, if there's plastic pollution or the climate crisis. This is a place for people to come together. So I'll let Laura and Madison also answer those questions. And I see a couple more in the chat too.
So Innocent asked specifically about social media training for youth activists in Africa, and then Andrea just asked in the chat as well, do we have partners in Mexico? So I can answer those two questions kind of at the same time. I mentioned earlier that I am the Youth Initiative Coordinator for the World Ocean Day. And World Ocean Day, we're going to talk about it a little more on the next slide, the more specific ways that you can get involved. But World Ocean Day is an international event, and we just released a toolkit. So you can go ahead and find that on the website. We're going to have some QR codes that you guys can check out on the next slide. We'll talk about that a little bit more in detail in a second. But in terms of my personal experience, I was also the youth programs manager for a nonprofit called the Big Blue and You, which is run by a woman named Danny Washington. I also worked with Madison and Apurva a little bit at that organization. We all have kind of been involved. For those of you who do not know who Danny Washington is, she is a phenomenal resource for all sorts of different aspects of ocean conservation. The Big Blue and You focuses mainly on introducing the concept of ocean conservation through art and science, and it's specifically directed to underserved communities. It is currently only in the United States, but I do know that there are eventually plans down the line to expand to a couple of other countries, particularly in the Caribbean. So yeah, DannyWashington.com. Apurva just put that in the chat as well. And then some of my other experience, I was also a marine science educator. I was a data analyst for a dolphin photo ID lab. I interned with Madison at the University of Miami shark tagging team. So that's more of the science-based things. And then I also saw a question in the chat just now about how do we balance all of the different calls for activism from different sectors and causes. And to me, that is definitely an important issue, because a lot of this is intersectional. There's so many different crossroads with environmentalism through ableism and homophobia and women's rights issues, LGBTQ+ issues. There are so many different ways to tie a couple of these ribbons together, for a weird metaphor. And it's definitely tricky to balance all of it, but when you focus on the fact that none of these issues will be 100% solved without simultaneously working on a lot of these other issues at the same time. You can kind of find a balance that way. But I'm going to pass it off to Madison so she can share her part as well.
I think just to go off of what you said, I think it's really important. A lot of people think that you have to focus on one specific thing to advocate for, and that's definitely not true. But definitely checking in with yourself and making sure that, you know, speaking about all these issues, that you yourself don't get burnt out as well, which is really important. Especially now, we've been seeing a lot, you know, people getting really burnt out. There's so many issues and causes that need our attention. So you definitely don't just have to focus on one thing. And like we mentioned before, educating yourself and getting involved. Social media is a great tool of networking as well. So if you want to learn more about things going on in other countries, or maybe your country as well, definitely try to go through social media, find organizations, find those organizations' leaders, follow them, find scientists doing research in that specific area, and you'll definitely find more ways to get involved once you're in contact with those people in that specific community. But to just tell you a little bit about myself and my personal experience in youth activism, I got involved, you know, years and years ago with the Big Blue and You, which is a great organization if you're in the US. So like Laura said, it's, you know, involving youth using arts and media. So we put on events every year that I was able to, you know, be a part of, which was great. And just being involved in the environmental space, doing a lot of things in the activism side and the science side, as well. As Laura mentioned, we did some shark tagging, we worked in labs, which was awesome. We got to lobby in Washington and advocate for, you know, environmental and ocean friendly policies, which was amazing. I did get to attend the United Nations General Assembly last year during Climate Week and sit in on some meetings and it was really eye-opening as well to hear each country's different take on these environmental issues that's going on and climate change and how it affects them specifically, which was really eye-opening as well. So kind of, again, you know, learning about how other issues, the specifics of what goes on in each country, because sometimes what affects us here and what seems really important here, you know, whether it's, I spoke with the leader of Namibia and they were having problems with lions. People here, we want to protect lions, but they're becoming an issue. So learning how to like navigate that and learning what each specific community and country needs in regards to environmental issues is also really important to do. And I'm trying to keep up in the chat as well, but it's kind of hard. It's really great, honestly, to see that so many people are interacting with the chat and everyone's networking and sharing. And I think this is also a really great resource. Definitely take advantage of all of us, you know, coming together from all different parts of the world and sharing our, you know, social media, our emails. So this is really awesome to see. I'm actually very, very, very happy about this.
Yeah. So I just switched it to the next slide. These are some QR codes. So if you hold up your phone, you just take a picture, it should automatically bring you to the link. The first slide, or sorry, the first QR code on the left-hand side of the screen is for Youthathon. So that is an event that is a 24-hour live stream of youth-based conservation content from around the world, and that's through the Ocean Project, which runs World Ocean Day. So that will be on June 5th and 6th, coming up really soon. And Madison was actually a session host on Youthathon last year. I was a co-host of the entire event, and I'm helping put together the event again this year. So it's super awesome. I definitely recommend you check that out. And then Earth Day is coming up in about 10 days, I believe. But then we also have, of course, World Ocean Day, and all three of us are more specifically ocean activists. So we wanted to plug World Ocean Day. If you go to worldoceanday.org/events, they have a really helpful tool where you can first of all, look for inspiration if there is something that you feel like you could do in your own community. They have that toolkit that I was talking about before on the website there as well. And then you can actually register your event on the website. So your event that you are planning yourself will actually appear on the map that they have. And it's a global map. We already have some events happening in all different continents. So I definitely recommend you check that out. And then I'll let Apurva talk about Youthify.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I mentioned before, Youthify is really a community for youth environmentalists. So it's open to all. Anyone can join and get involved. And it's a great place to find support from your peers, advice on, whatever projects that you've been working on, as well as get connected to other youth change makers from around the world. I also see Anna's question in the chat, which of the 4 is most related to single-use plastics? I wouldn't say any of them are really specifically related to plastics. I know World Ocean Day does do some kind of like ocean plastic advocacy, but you can definitely meet other people through any of these that are, really passionate about plastic pollution and connect with other youth who are involved in plastic pollution advocacy. Sorry, Madison, did you want to say something?
I was just gonna say, I can write a few organizations that aren't mentioned here in the chat that focus specifically on plastic pollution. And I know, Laura, you can add to this, at least last year's Youth-a-thon, each session is hosted by someone else and they're all talking about different things. So there were a lot of sessions in Youth-a-thon that did talk specifically about single-use plastics and plastic pollution. So I'm sure they'll be, posting the Youth-a-thon agenda soon, and you can definitely check out which sessions are specifically about that and anything else. So I'll write in the chat, but I'm sorry, Apurva, you can finish up with the Youthify.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, we're building a community of Gen Z changemakers. It's open to all youth who are under the age of 25. And we're really trying to bring together as many young people as we possibly can to create a really big global mobilization for various environmental issues. So we host a number of different events that are all geared towards getting people together and having, important discussions like these in one kind of centralized place. We're also building a kind of community resource center where people can learn about any environmental issue, as well as kind of get training in how to be a change maker. So how to have presentation skills, communication skills, how to write emails to important people, things like that everyone, needs to know how to do, but sometimes people struggle with. And we're kind of bringing together resources from lots of different organizations to create this sort of learning center. And that's going to be one of the things that we're launching this year, along with a global youth summit, kind of like this one, that's again geared towards bringing people together, giving them a space to connect, collaborate, and support each other, as well as preparing them to kind of be a part of this huge global youth mobilization. So would love to see you all there if you're interested in joining. And yeah, I'll let Laura and Madison kind of cover some of the other things in here as well.
Just really quick, that first QR code in the red, that actually links to a page where you can sign up to join the World Ocean Day Rising Blue Network newsletter. So that's a monthly newsletter that will go out to your email inbox. That is kind of a collection of different organizations. We're spotlighting one organization from a different part of the world every month, and then also one youth council member for World Ocean Day. And then in addition to that, we just have, general updates and news and events that are happening around the world. So if you are interested in that, definitely check out the QR code, but I'll let Madison talk a little bit more about the Big Blue and You.
Yeah, so Laura and I kind of briefly mentioned the Big Blue and You, but it started in Florida, in Miami, by that lovely woman that we mentioned before, Danny Washington, and her mother. And it's a very, very great organization. Like we mentioned, they put on an event every year where it's kind of targeting those underserved communities to try to get people involved, and specifically the youth involved in art and science, kind of bridging the gap. It's very big on like science communication. We have artists that come, we have scientists that come. So it's really geared towards the youth and kind of bringing ocean conservation into the mainstream as well, to make it something that, everyone can participate in, everyone can learn about, everyone can become inspired and passionate about. Which is a super cool organization. You can check out their website. There are ways to get involved. Let's see, am I forgetting anything else about them? I don't know, Laura, if you wanted to add anything about the Big Blue and You, or
There is one question in the chat. How can we be a member of this organization and start activities for conservation of nature in our home country? That is a great question. Apoorva just answered in the chat. But yeah, like we mentioned before, World Ocean Day and Youthify are both more international organizations that do have ways of getting involved. World Ocean Day in particular, the Youth Advisory Council does have applications to join the advisory council. They're not currently open. I do believe the next time that those applications will be open will be in December or January, most likely, depending on how the pandemic goes. But that is an entirely virtual position. It's a 2-year program, and World Ocean Day basically just supports our youth members and whatever projects they have going on in their own communities back at home. And we really try to make sure we get as many different voices in our council as possible. So when those applications are open, we actually only allow 2 members per country to be accepted into the program. So it's a really awesome program. If you do subscribe to the Rising Blue Network newsletter, again, on that first QR code, you should be able to receive those updates directly to your inbox. Let me see. And yeah, so that's basically all we have for you guys for today. We are ending a little bit early, but if there's any more questions you have for us, let us know. All of our Instagram information is here. That is Apoorva, and then myself, and then Madison, and then Youthify and Big Blue and You. World Ocean Day is not there, but it's, I'll just put it in the chat.
Yeah, and while she's doing that, I just want to add to kind of the question that was dropped in the chat earlier, is that there are lots of opportunities within the scope of these that are open to like everyone and don't have any kind of criteria or requirements to get involved. Youthify is a great example of that for young people specifically, but the Big Blue Crew is open to adults and kind of that older age range as well. So if you're, not really in that space anymore, but you'd still like to be kind of involved in activism, the Big Blue Crew is a great place to kind of get involved with that again. The crew is very much kind of support oriented, so kind of like the World Oceans Day Youth Advisory Council. Like Laura mentioned, the crew is mostly focused on Big Blue and You amplifying the efforts of activists that are working to protect the ocean. Whereas Youthify is a little bit more focused on just connecting activists to each other and providing a place for people to share opportunities and kind of meet and collaborate. But yeah, if anybody has any other questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Would love to connect with all of you over social media as well.
Yeah, if anybody wants to put their social media handles in the group chat, you guys can use this now as an opportunity for networking on social media. And if anybody has any final questions, please let us know. But otherwise, that is the end of our presentation. We do hope to see as many of you tomorrow as possible back in our session number 2, again, starting at the exact same time tomorrow morning, where we're going to be focusing more on the action side of things. We kind of talked more about activist theory today, but we're going to get a little bit more hands-on tomorrow.
And I think, Victor, you have it set to a direct message. So if you click that little tab, and you can write it to everyone as well.
But yeah, if no one has any other questions, you guys can feel free to hop off if you've got, other things to get to. But it was really great meeting all of you, and we'll be sure to kind of stay in touch over social media, and hopefully see you guys all again sometime tomorrow for our next session.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for joining. You guys had great things to add. We had great conversations in here. I'm really hoping that you can all come back tomorrow. But yeah, we'll leave this open for a little bit because I see people are still writing in their social media. But if you want to head out, thank you so much.
Thank you all so much for joining us. We hope to see you tomorrow.
Thanks, everyone.
Hi. Hello.
Okay, thank you so much. Bye bye.
Thank you for all your great comments, Victor, as well.
Yeah, I was wondering, is there a way we could get social media companies to at least verify most of our handle, everyone here, to to enable activism without suspension based on sensitive issues, etc.
I wish
That's
there
sort
was a way we could do that. I don't think so. I wish there was, but
There may be people trying to do that already. If you look them up online, I don't know of any organizations specifically working towards that, but you never know. There might be people out there that are trying to, make sure that our activism is not censored.
Yeah.
I know it's very tricky in other countries. Activism can be a very dangerous thing. So yeah, I don't know of anything personally, but I would definitely research that. There might be some stuff out there.
In London here, it used to be quite easy. We go into the office, but since the pandemic, everywhere is shut. We can't go in, and they are not open until they are back from June, perhaps. I'm not too sure. Yeah.
Yeah, the pandemic has definitely made a lot of things very, very difficult to do.
Yeah. Very, very.
anybody else have any final questions? Awesome. Well, that is all we have for you guys today. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.
You guys, hopefully we'll see you tomorrow.
Take care. Yeah.
Bye, guys.
It's been fun. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
I don't know where her went, but hey.
Bye, Purva. Hi. Hey.
So I
How's it
saved
going?
the chat a bunch of times, but I'm like hoping